The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening to us on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you can stream the show live from the station website at radiolex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the Deborah Hensley Studios here at Radio Lex on North Limestone. It is October the 23rd, 2025. The Daytime Emmy Awards took place just a couple of days ago, October the 17th. The Daytime Emmy Awards is the biggest night for daytime television. You've got the Oscars for movies, you got the primetime Emmys for primetime shows that are on in the evening, and you also have the Daytime Emmys, which consist of daytime programming. That includes your morning shows, your daytime talk shows, your soap operas, and the 52nd Daytime Emmys took place in Pasadena, California, and it was hosted by television host Mario Lopez, also known as AC Slater from Saved by the Bell. I don't think I will ever be able to see him other than AC Slater from Saved by the Bell, but he hosted the Emmys. What's awkward about the Emmys, it being a daytime award show, it is not broadcasted on television. A award show that honors television isn't broadcasted on television. I find that quite bizarre, and it's because of the lack of viewership that the award shows have been bringing to television ratings. It's been falling for the last couple of years. But if you didn't watch, and I'm sure you didn't because it wasn't on TV, it was broadcasted online. If you didn't watch the Daytime Emmys, it was overwhelmingly won by soap opera stars. That's usually the biggest programming on during the daytime. Not like there used to be, but there's still soap operas out there. There's General Hospital. There is Days of Our Lives. There is All My Children. Those, I think, maybe it's One Life to Live, but there's not many left, but they overwhelmingly won the awards. For instance, Outstanding Supporting Performance in a Daytime Drama went to Susan Walters for The Young and the Restless. Outstanding Lifestyle Program went to You Are What You Eat. Outstanding Supporting Performance in a Daytime Drama was Jonathan Jackson in General Hospital. Outstanding Daytime Talk Series was The Drew Barrymore Show. The Outstanding Legal Program was Hot Bench. Outstanding Culinary Host was Condria Brown. Outstanding Talk Show Host in the Daytime was Live with Kelly and Mark. And then a bunch others. But overwhelmingly, soap operas took home the major awards of the day. And speaking of soap operas, folks, one big major soap opera will be celebrating 60 years on the air, and I'm talking about Days of Our Lives. It premiered in September of 1965, and they will, it debuted November the 8th, 1965. So this coming November, Days of Our Lives will celebrate 60 years on the air. 60 years of a television program. I was talking to one of my producers here before I walked into the show to do it, and I was telling him about Days of Our Lives celebrating their 60-year anniversary because he's seen my notes, and he didn't really know what Days of Our Lives is. He's not from America originally, and he was blown away by the fact that a television show could run for 60 years. Because where he's from, a lot of soap operas, they last maybe 6, 7, 8 months. It's kind of like a mini series. But soap operas here in America are very, very different. The culture here is very different. Shows can run for 20, 30, 40, 50, and like Days of Our Lives, 60 years on the air. That show is an iconic show. My mom watched that show, so I know all about Days of Our Lives. I mean, everybody recognizes the iconic Days of Our Lives theme music. We've talked about that theme music on the show before. We did a whole segment This is the original theme music, 1965.
Through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
And it was voiced over by Dr. Tom Horton. He was the main character of Days of Our Lives. And they kept this theme for 60 years.
Days of Our Lives, a new dramatic serial starring MacDonald Carey.
I mean, they dropped the voice over as the years went on because that man who played the doctor died. But they kept the show going, and they kept that same hourglass they used for the last 60 years in the opening. Of course, they've revamped it over the years, but they've stayed true to their roots. Days of Our Lives has been on and has had so many mind-blowing storylines. I mean, think about all of the storylines from Days of Our Lives that people probably remember. If you talk about maybe some of the most iconic storylines, most people probably think about Marlena turning into the devil. Do you remember that when she got possessed by the devil? That's the first time I remember ever watching Days of Our Lives, when one of their main cast members, Marlena, ended up getting possessed by Satan. And it caused me to freak out. I mean, I remember being a little boy and seeing that the scenes of her being a devil, kind of like The Exorcist, and it really freaked me out. Here's a clip from Days of Our Lives with Marlena turning into the devil.
Wrong again. Oh, Celeste. I will put the end to him. I will make him break his priestly vows. And then he will lose his power as a priest.
But how?
It's very simple.
I mean, think about how creepy that was when you seen somebody as beautiful as Marlena having yellow eyes and having the voice from like the little girl from that movie, The Exorcist. It was very crazy. That was the one storyline that I can remember the most from that show. And that was the first storyline I remember seeing from Days of Our Lives. I was like 6 or 7 years old when that came on, and I was just glued to the television set after that. So anyone who has watched Days of Our Lives for years remembers that storyline. There are so many other storylines. What about the whole Bo and Hope storyline? They've went through so many different things. They went through a point to where she was presumed dead, and then she had a lookalike come along called Princess Gina. And they went through years and years of that storyline. They had this one storyline of this girl being buried alive on the soap opera. I remember it was this girl this woman named Vivian. She was evil, and she ended up loving this man that this other woman was married to. So she ended up giving this woman who she hated because she was married to the man that she loved. She ended up giving her this magic herbal tea, and everybody thought she had died when she drank it because it made her appear dead. And they ended up burying her alive. Take a listen from the scene of when this woman, Carly, gets buried alive in Days of Our Lives from this evil woman named Vivian. And what's creepy about this scene is Vivian like lays on top of the grave and laughs as Carly is like banging on the casket wanting out. Take a listen. Oh no, that's Marlena being obsessed. This is Carly banging on the casket trying to get out.
Oh my God. I've been buried alive.
And she just lays on top of the grave laughing as this woman is banging on her casket trying to get out, as she's 6 feet under with dirt laying on top of her. I mean, mind-blowing things. You talk about traumatizing for a kid to watch. Most of these storylines that aired, I was only 4, 5, 6 years old. I mean, they had a storyline one time where they had a murder mystery where somebody was murdering main cast members on the show. They had this one storyline where Hope got trapped from an avalanche and ended up getting kidnapped. They had a storyline of Marlena getting locked into a secret room and John getting accused of murder. So many different storylines happened on that soap opera. Here's one of the most haunting scenes I can remember from the soap opera days of our lives. It was when it was a hospital scene where Hope loses her baby, and her baby dies. And this is one of the most dramatic scenes I can remember from this soap opera. Out of all of the years that I had ever seen it on, this particular moment really stunned me when I seen it. It really brought chill bumps on me because of the performance, of how haunting the performance was. Because the scream that she lets out when she hears that her son has died, it was like the cry of a real life mother who had lost her child. So in this particular scene, you'll notice the music gets real tense. The doctors are coming out, and just by the look on their face, Hope can tell that her son, her baby boy, didn't make it. Take a listen at the skrilling scream that she lets out when she hears that her son didn't make it, her baby boy. Take a listen.
I've seen firsthand the kind of power that has, Sean.
Amen.
And it's Zach's best chance for making it through this.
Terrible. And I just remember that still all of these years later. It's been like 20 years since that scene aired, and it still is one of the most haunting scenes that I've ever seen on a daytime drama from an actress. So 60 years on the air. November the 8th, 2025 will make 60 years since that soap opera has hit the television airwaves in America. But folks, we have a great show ahead of you today. You are listening to Off the Cuff. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last week on the show, we had an interesting segment where I talked about some of the greatest Western TV theme songs of all time, and we talked about a bunch of them. There was Bonanza, there was Little House on the Prairie, there was Jesse James, and so many other theme songs. I would love for you to check that out. It is in the archives. And a lot of people were throwing up theme songs that I hadn't played on the show thread last week. They were saying, you forgot about this, you forgot about that. But remember, folks, last week I was talking about the greatest Western TV theme songs of all time, and you guys were throwing out theme songs, Western theme songs from Western movies. And you threw a lot of great ones at me. So it made me think, why not this week do a segment on some of the greatest Western movie theme songs of all time? And we'll start with this one right here. This is called The Magnificent Seven, which was a great Western. It was composed by Elmer Bernstein from the movie The Magnificent Seven. It was released in 1960. This is a great theme because it's bold, it's heroic, and it's unforgettable. A lot of people who like Westerns will recognize this theme. And I can understand why you may like a Western movie, and they're not everybody's cup of tea. But I can understand why a lot of people love them. They're full of action, it's full of drama, it's full of energy, and you can really do any type of thing with a Western. You could have drama, you could have comedy, you could have a romantic storyline, and you can throw a Western setting in there and have it all. Now, one of the great things about Western movies is the theme music. That's why I want to do a segment on some of the best and greatest Western movie theme songs of all time. So not only do we have the Magnificent Seven, this next one might be the most iconic Western movie theme song of all time, from The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Take a listen. That little riff alone lets people instantly know what this is. Anytime you see a parody or a spoof of a Western, they are usually using this theme because it is instantly attached to the Western genre. This theme music was composed by Ennio Morricone for the movie The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, released in 1966. If I'm not mistaken, this movie stars Clint Eastwood, but I could be wrong. This is a great Western theme, maybe one of the best ever composed. Like I said, it's got eerie music, it's wordless, so the music just makes you hang on to every single note. It's a testament to cinematic Western movies. You know, also in the movie The Good, Bad, and Ugly, yes, this was the main theme for that movie, but also in this movie, there was another great theme song that come from this movie. It's called The Ecstasy of Gold. You'll know it when you hear it. Yes. This is a theme song that they used during one of the scenes of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. It was actually the scene where Tuco frantically searches a graveyard for buried gold. This track right here, when it was attached to the scene, it really helped build the scene. It captures the madness and the beauty of the whole movie. I love Western themes because they always have some type of... There's not many words in Western themes, but there's always a voice a lot of the times, and they're not singing, they're just doing whatever you call what she's doing. Not really using words, just using her voice. But there are more great Western themes. What about from the Western A Fistful of Dollars? I love this Western theme a lot because it uses a whistle for the bulk of it, which is very Western-like. This movie was released in 1964. It is called A Fistful of Dollars. Now, this movie I know for sure starred Clint Eastwood back in the day. Clint Eastwood's been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think Clint Eastwood is pushing 95 years old. And he's still out there killing it. Okay, next up is one of the best Western theme songs of all time from a Western movie is Once Upon a Time in the West. This was composed by Ennio Morricone, who is a big composer for Western movies. This movie was called Once Upon a Time in the West, and it was released in 1968. This is pure Semitic poetry, I would say. This music doesn't just support the film, it tells a story. The way it swells and lingers, it just brings epic emotional weight to every scene. It's got the soft piano. It makes the West feel like a place of myth and memory. This is a really good Western score. It's not really just a Western score, it's a requiem for the Wild West. I would love to see more modern Westerns done, but always throwing it back to old sounding scores like this. Really, you can have a modern day Western and still make it feel like a Western because of music. Like if you put this music in a 2025 film, it's going to sound older. And it's going to let you know, hey, you're watching a Western. Western theme music can really make you fall into deep thinking because this is all those Westerners do. on those things. They think, they tell a story. It's a lot of character development in Westerns. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Obviously, you know, during this scene, there was a really emotional thing happening. All right, coming up next, as one of the best Western movie theme songs of all time, comes from Ghost Rider in the Sky, sang by Tex Spence. And I like this one because it's got words.
An old cowboy went riding out one dark and windy day. On a ridge he rested as he went along his way.
This is from the Western Ghost Riders in the Sky, released in 1949. This theme was performed by Tex Ritter on vocals, and the music was composed by Stan Jones. This is a Western ballad, so not many Western theme songs have words to their theme, but this one does, which makes it unique and makes it one of my favorites.
A bolt of fear went through him as they thundered through the sky. They saw the riders coming hard, and they heard their mournful cry.
All right, one more to share for the audience. We're talking about the best Western movie theme songs of all time. And the last one I would like to share is from one of my favorite Westerns, Kill Bill. This is from Kill Bill 2. This is called El Arena by Maricano. This is composed by, you guessed it, Ernie Marcano, one of the greatest Western composers of all time. He also composed this theme for Kill Bill 2. And this was a modern Western film done in 2004. One of my favorite, directed by Quentin Tarantino. And this music is used in a lot of scenes, but one of my favorite scenes that this music is used is when the main character gets buried alive in a casket, and she is left tied up in a casket, and somehow she is still able to escape because her master, her trainer, who trained her to do all of the karate moves that she knows how to do, taught her to throw a punch when her enemy is only just a couple of feet away from her. So her being buried alive and the casket being so close to her, it was hard for her to get off a strong punch, to punch through the casket. But her trainer taught her how to bust through the casket, and she used that skill while laying there, and it was awesome. And it was playing this music, and it was a very triumphant song to play because you really thought that she was a goner. You really thought that the main character of the movie was going to die by being buried alive. But when you heard this music, you knew that she was getting ready to escape. So that's what I love about music, folks. Music can really play on your emotions. It lets you know, okay, maybe, just maybe, she might make it out of this. Because without hearing the music, you really did think she was doomed. But when you heard this music pop up, you're like, you know what? This sounds like triumphant music. This sounds like something she's going to figure out. So when they started playing this, that's exactly what happened in the scene. She was able to get loose from the ropes. She was able to punch through the casket and climb through the dirt. All while this amazing scene and theme music was happening. It's a perfect example of this composer's talent. This music evokes drama, tension, and emotion without a single word. It proves that a Western score can be just as powerful just decades after its creation. And as this music's playing, she's getting through the casket. I love it. If you've not seen Kill Bill by Quentin Tarantino, it's a must-watch. His best movie to date, and my favorite Western of all time, if we're talking about Western movies. But that, folks, pretty much wraps up my segment as some of the greatest Western movie theme songs of all time. Folks, we've talked about so many different types of theme songs. Theme songs from Western shows, reality shows, soap operas, sitcoms, cartoons. So many. But we never touched the Western genre, so I'm glad we finally got to cover it. And for all of you Western fans out there, these segments were for you. I just had to close there on that last beautiful one because that was definitely one of my favorites. All right, folks, we still have lots more Off the Cuff with Adam Banks coming your way right after these words. The U.S. patent was issued to American inventor Sebastian Hinton for a playground climbing structure popularly known as the monkey bars. So the monkey bars, one of the greatest, most infamous toys on a playground, was patented on this day back in 1923. On this day, 1941, is when Walt Disney's animated film Dumbo is released. On this day, 1958, the Smurfs first appeared in the story Joan and Puit by Belajan Payo. On this day in history, 1975, English rock star Elton John receives a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And finally, on this day in history, 2001, Apple releases the iPod, maybe one of the most transcending inventions ever created. People still think about the iPod, what it has done for music. Before the iPod, everybody used to have cassette tapes or CDs. Now you can fit thousands and thousands and thousands of songs on one little tiny device. And then finally here, on this day back in history, October 23rd, 2018, Megyn Kelly is criticized after making comments supporting blackface on her NBC show. The downfall of Megyn Kelly happened on this day in history. Probably not a good day for Megyn. I'm sure she's had a rough morning because of so many memories being brought up. Remember, on her show, she had a show on the Today Show for an hour back in the mid-2000s. And in 2018, she made a comment. It was only on the air for like 6 months before she messed up and ran her mouth. But she made a comment saying that she felt like it was completely acceptable to wear blackface as a Halloween costume. Well, the backlash did not go over well for her, and she was immediately fired from her show, and NBC now has nothing to do with her. But now, folks, that is all of the things that have happened on this day, October the 23rd, in history. This seems like a great place to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week. And this week, I've got a song called Golden by Hunter/X. Apparently, these girls right here is kind of like the new Hannah Montana. The kids everywhere are obsessed with them. So, since they're such a trend across the world, why not play it here on Off the Cuff? We'll be back after the song. Most people, when you ask them, are you a good person? The answer they give you most of the time is, yes, I'm a good person. And I read this article online this morning, and it made me really want to just discuss it with you guys, because this article was talking about the subtle signs that someone's actually a pretty bad person. So I want to go over these, and I want you to just kind of do some self-reflection. Ask yourself, do I fall in any of these categories? Because according to this article, if you do, those are subtle signs that you are actually a pretty bad person. So hopefully you don't fall into these categories, because when I was reading some of these, I did have to agree with some of them I didn't. But here are some of the things they said. They said a person who never apologizes. Everything is just always someone else's fault. Yes, that's a little annoying. For instance, it's kind of like if I told you that I have a dentist appointment tomorrow at 2 o'clock, please remind me, and you forget to remind me at 2 p.m. that I have an appointment. Whose fault is it? Yours or mine? Well, obviously, it's my fault. It's my responsibility. It's my appointment. It wasn't your responsibility to remind me. It would have been nice to have been reminded since I asked you to, but it's still my responsibility at the end of the day. So some people just never, apologize. Some people are, they just can't. They're incapable. They are incapable of admitting that they're wrong. And it's really hard for people to get forgiveness when they refuse to apologize. Another category, it says a subtle sign that someone's actually a pretty bad person is how they treat people who can't do anything for them. That's true. You notice how people act around you, especially if you can't do anything for them. That will tell a lot about somebody. If there is something that you can do for somebody, whether it's get them out of a speeding ticket or help them, grow their numbers on a podcast, there are subtle signs that you sometimes have to look out for, because not everybody has the best intentions when they want to get to know you or be in your life. So pay attention to how they treat you. If you can absolutely do nothing for them, usually that's a pretty good person to have in your life. If they don't want nothing from you, they just want your friendship, that's a good person. Another category says that if a person describes their ex as crazy, odds are that they're the problem. Well, that's situational. The inability to apologize, we kind of already addressed that. Some people just don't know how to say I'm sorry. They want to. They know they need to. But a lot of people sometimes will even say, when they try to apologize, they can't even get the words out. So they'll say something like, if I did anything wrong, I'm sorry. Well, no, that's not an apology at that point. If you did anything wrong, I'm sorry. Of course you did something wrong. So don't try to minimize it by saying, if I did something wrong, I'm sorry. Own up to it. Own up to it. If you did something wrong, say, I am sorry. I apologize. I'll tell you a story. Yesterday, I had a fraternity brother call me I hadn't talked to in probably 15 years. And he called me up. And I'm not even kidding. He was upset with me over something that happened 15 years ago, over a decision that I had to make as the vice president of the fraternity. I had to kick him out due to a meeting or something that he didn't attend, or a fine that he didn't pay. And apparently he called me up, still bitter over it 15 years later, saying that he was treated unfairly. First of all, it was hard for me to remember 15 years ago. It was hard for me to remember the situation, but I remember saying, that probably did happen. I can't remember if it did, but if it did, I'm not saying that it didn't. And if it did, I am very, very sorry. I apologize, because that is not something that I wanted to happen. And we squashed it right then and there. But it was amazing that he was holding on to that for so long, when all he really needed to do was just talk to me. But I had no problem throwing out an apology. Another category here, it says someone who's always bragging about their wealth. Another category, always claiming to be a good person. Another category, constantly joking at other people's expenses. Another category says you're a bad person, maybe if you finally, or you encourage somebody to open up to you just so that you can judge them. Talking crap about somebody's behind their back is always a 100% guaranteed sign, it says. It says here, another category that you can subtly tell that someone is a bad person is to watch how they treat a stranger. Another category is someone who thinks empathy is a weakness. Another says someone who uses their religion to justify hate. Another category says how they treat animals. There's a lot of truth behind that. A lot of serial killers have always been, I don't want to say always, but they usually have a track record of mistreating animals in their childhood. So there's a lot to that. Another category, it says someone who is always rude to customer service staff, someone who says or someone who doesn't return their shopping cart to the cart department. Absolutely. Someone says how they behave around women. Of course, you shouldn't be behaving around women like you behave around around other men if you are a man. Women are supposed to be treated like a little delicate flower in most situations. And I don't say that to be demeaning towards women, but there's a lot of things that men can say around each other that isn't very appropriate to say around a female. So treat and talk to women differently than how you would a man. They're different. So I would say to be mindful of that. It says here, another category that someone is subtly might be a bad person is if they are happy when someone is suffering. Hello, that's pretty evil. But you do know people like that. Some people out there have no empathy towards other people. They love, they get excitement, they get joy out of watching other people suffer. They get a kick out of that. That is a very dark place to be and a very hard, cold heart to have if you do get joy out of watching other people go through pain. And then finally, one more here. If they get angry because you're sick instead of wishing you to get well. Yeah. I mean, sometimes people really get upset when you say that you're sick, and instead of wishing you well and hoping you get better, they become very selfish and they get mad because their plans were disrupted by your physical ability to go out and do anything. I mean, when somebody tells me they're sick, yes, it sucks that the plans got destroyed and that it was a little bit of an inconvenience, but my first priority is to make sure that you're okay. Are you feeling well? You know, do you need anything? But sometimes people, they just are so selfish they can't see anything beyond that. But anyway, that is some simple, subtle signs that you may be a bad person, even if you think you are good. So hopefully you never fell in any of those categories. But folks, we still have one more segment to go. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Everybody to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. Today's national holiday is National Talk Show Host Day. I used to be a television talk show host. Back in the day, I used to co-host Midday Kentucky on ABC 36. A very fun time in life, a very monumental time in my broadcasting career. I do love television, not as much as radio, but TV is a different beast. It's a different medium. You're not just using your voice, you have to use your entire personality. Not just your voice, but you have to be physically seen. So much you have to focus on when you're doing television. You know, you can multitask a lot on the radio, but when you're doing TV, it's hard to multitask because the camera is always on you. But today's national holiday is National Talk Show Host Day, and this is celebrated on October the 23rd every year because it is a tribute to one of the greatest talk show hosts of all time on his birthday, Mr. Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson was the iconic host of The Tonight Show. We've talked about Carson on the show before. Maybe one of the most popular television hosts to ever exist. It says here that American radio personality Joe Franklin hosts the first television talk show back in 1951 on WJZ-TV. In 1954, the world's longest-running talk show, The Tonight Show, debuts on NBC with Steve Allen as the host. Not many people know that Carson was not the first host of The Tonight Show. Steve Allen was, and then it went to Jack Paar and then Johnny Carson. In 1962, that is when NBC signed Johnny Carson as the host of The Tonight Show. So, who is considered a TV talk show host? A host is more than an anchor. A host is someone who is the show's presenter. They engage with the live audience. They recite a monologue a lot of the times, and they interact with guests. They interview them, interview people from the audience. So they do more than what an anchor does. It says here that Ellen DeGeneres is considered the most popular TV talk show host in America. And that's funny because she doesn't even have a talk show currently on the air. But she was the highest paid TV talk show host of all time, taking home an annual salary of $50 million a year while on the air. That's a big salary to give up. Yes, she's still rich, but that's a big change, going from $50 million annually to nothing. Have you always wondered why on late night shows that a lot of the hosts are seated on the right and they have the guest on the left? Well, it says here that TV talk shows, the host likes to take a seat on the right to be the final focus of a frame because our eyes read a frame from left to right. The right part of a screen is where the main character is placed. Some hosts have also confessed that a seat at the right side makes them seem more powerful. So that's why they like to sit on the right side of the guest. Here are some 5 facts that are mind-blowing about the American broadcasting industry. It says here that the television industry saw its biggest commercial jump in the years between 1949 and 1969, a period also known as the Golden Age of TV. Also, it says that television's breaking news format came about 6 years after the first talk show was aired. Another fact here, it says, as per the Nielsen ratings, the Super Bowl showdown of 2015 between the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks is the most watched event in television history. I mean, the Super Bowl every year typically is the most watched event of the year. Usually, if you're looking at a top 10 list of the most watched programs in television history, the Super Bowl is like in the top 10. It says the average American watches 4 hours of TV every single day. And then finally, the TV industry's total revenue grossed $240 billion in 2020 and is expected to increase in the coming decade. Television is still such a powerful medium. Yes, it's evolved over the years with streaming, but broadcast television, it's taken a dip, but still TV, because of streaming, is stronger than ever. And yes, there are still hosts. People still call a YouTube host, they still call them a television host. What is really considered television these days? Is it a screen that sits in your living room, or is it just a screen of any kind? I mean, can a show on YouTube be considered TV? Because you can broadcast YouTube on TV. So really, it's not that YouTube isn't TV. It's not that streaming isn't TV. It's just not cable. So really, TV isn't, I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's taken a dip. Television has gotten stronger than ever because there is a difference between television and cable. Cable, yes, that's been on the decline for years. But television, nah. Television is not going away, but thanks to streaming, that's why television will stay around for the next decade, the next century, and years and years and years to come after that. But folks, happy National Talk Show Day for all of you TV hosts out there. That pretty much wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. If you liked what you heard today, folks, you'll probably like our previous episodes. We archive them all on podcasts. We're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we are on YouTube, we are wherever you stream your podcast. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You can follow me, the show host, on social media at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place next week for our 600th episode. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the King of Radio, Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff. I will catch you down the road.